Looks like we're live. We'll give YouTube a moment as usual, but I think we should be good. I am Drew Badger, the founder of EnglishAnyone.com and the English Fluency Guide. Welcome to another live video here on YouTube. Today we're going to be talking, as usual, about fluency, but I want to show you how to do this in English if you're not really learning in English already. Now, most of the people who watch my videos, they're probably learning English in English already, but I know many of the people I talk with about language learning or, who don't even try to learn a different language and they're just curious about what I do. I say you have to learn the language in the language you want to learn. And they say, well, how is that possible? So I actually wrote a whole book about it called The Strangest Fluency Secret that shows you exactly how to do this, whatever your level is, or even if you're trying to help other people learn, this is how you can do it in English. But I wanted to talk specifically about how this works and why you should learn this way. It's not necessarily a bad thing if you get translations, but it will slow you down and you don't want to be thinking through translations when you speak. So if you can think in English because you learn in English, then you will speak a lot more fluently and confidently. So anyway, we're going to talk about that in today's video. Nice to see you there. We got George, Jose, and Renee. Looks like people on the other side of the planet from me, I think, but glad to see people here. Hopefully everyone is doing well. So I wanted to begin first with just a quick example. I will probably be sharing this in chapter 7 of the book, which I'm working on currently, but I thought this would be just a very interesting lesson and a very good example of why translations don't really help you speak. All right. Let's see. So I think I have a couple of different examples of this one. I've actually shared this one before, I think, but I thought this would be a good time to share it again. Anyway, let's say I'm going to teach you something in Japanese. I'm just going to teach you, let's say, the English word. So the English word faucet. I'll even draw a picture of this for you here. Let's see. We're going to draw... It's not going to look too pretty as usual, but this is like the hot water over here. We got the cold water over here. Well, I put it in there. The hot water and the cold water. So you turn those and the water comes out here. So this is called a faucet. A faucet. I'll give you the Japanese equivalent of this. And I'll just write it in English so it's easy for people to read it here. Jaguchi. 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 So if I tell you this, am I teaching you a language? Technically I am. I'm saying, this equals that. But if I just give you a translation of something, you can see I'm trying to connect these two ideas, but it doesn't really feel meaningful to you. It's just a word. If you don't know what this means already, I could just write whatever I want here for Japanese and it wouldn't really mean anything to you. But I am trying to connect these things, and this is typically how people learn. So they will get a name for something or a word or a grammar point or whatever. You will get the translation of that, and then your job is to understand that and remember it, and hopefully at some point you become confident using it. But often that doesn't happen. So let's look at how I would actually teach you this if I wanted you, and I probably wouldn't teach you this word first if I'm teaching you Japanese, but just as an example, I really want to help you understand the language in the language if I can, but really the goal here is to create a bridge. So we have this piece of information here and this one, and we're trying to make a connection that's memorable so you understand things, you recall them easily when you speak, and that's what allows you to speak fluently. So lots of people get stuck because when they try to speak, they have to think through translations or they worry about rules or making mistakes or whatever. So there are lots of things that block people when they try to speak, and so this is an example of how you might learn, which causes this kind of blocking. All right, so again, most of the people watching my videos are probably already learning English in English. These are more intermediate or advanced learners who often know a lot but still have trouble speaking, like I'm having trouble speaking right now. But again, I thought it would just be useful to explain this. So we begin with the word in English, faucet. I'm making it a little bit easier. We've got the word picture over here. And then we've got jaguchi over here. Now, let me try to make this a little bit more concrete to make it meaningful for you. And I'll make a point here that like people will kind of argue with me about this in just a moment, but let me give you my other example over here. So let's say I'm trying to teach you Japanese, and I give you, instead of the English word here, I give you the actual Japanese for the word. So I just show you here. Let's see if I can remember how to write this. I think I got it. Look at that. Okay, so I've just written this for you in Japanese. So we've got jaguchi over here. Now, this also doesn't really give you a lot to think about or a lot to really understand either, but here's the interesting part. If we go a little bit deeper, we start looking at the pieces of this. So this is really two characters together. We've got ja, which is a character for snake. And we could even break it down further looking at the pieces of the character here to understand that. And this one, kuchi, is the character for mouth. And so if we look at both of these, we got a snake here and the mouth of that snake right there, and we have a jaguchi. So again, it's like the snake mouth, and it looks like the thing we're actually trying to describe. Now, you might not remember this word tomorrow, and it doesn't matter. Maybe you don't need to speak Japanese. You probably don't. But again, when you're learning it this way, even if we're taking a few more steps, we're trying to build a few more connections like this. If we maybe start here and we finish over here, even if there are multiple connections, the point is there's an actual bridge here that helps you understand the thing you're trying to learn. And you can do it all in Japanese. So I could break this down further, like even this part over here, if we just draw that by itself. This is the character for bug. And we can think like, well, that's interesting. We put this, with kind of this house character and this little body character over here. We could think of probably a story or something that would help us remember this, but understand that the character here means snake. But again, it's not really important that you know that. But when you learn the Japanese like this, and this is why I tell people who are learning Japanese, it's a good idea to learn kanji even if you're not a good reader, kind of like I am, because they help you tell the story of the particular thing you're learning. All right, so often it's like, look at that, we've got a snake, we've got a mouth, and even though there are a few different steps I'm taking, it works like electricity to actually bridge that connection for you. So here, we're connecting something really just by putting two things next to each other, but there's actually no real connection there. Isn't that interesting? So when you're trying to learn something, like I mentioned before, that people will argue with me about this, and that is how quickly this works. So people will say, Drew, look, like your process takes longer than this one. And I just say, well, that one's not actually helping you make a connection at all, and it's actually going to be slower in the long run. But with this way, even if it looks like, we're building a stronger connection, think about regular electric cables. As long as these things are connected, even if there's a distance there, it still connects like that. So the point is, if you can feel that connection, you get that aha moment, that's where you feel you're actually making a connection with language, and that's how you can start learning it. So here, I'm giving you a little bit of English here just to make this lesson faster, but I just thought it would be an interesting thing if you can see how the language works. Again, we're trying to build a connection so that you feel confident about using something. And when you do this in English, you're learning English in English, it actually makes you more confident about using the language. Now, I'll give you some more examples in just a minute, but let me go back and check chat to see if anybody has any questions, all right? So remember, just because you've got two things next to each other doesn't mean you've made any connection in your mind, okay? And this is why it can often be difficult for people when they're trying to learn through translations that, oh, I kind of know the word, but I don't really know it. I don't actually understand why or what's happening here. I've got no real way to connect to that thing. And I could go deeper into the science of why this works, as far as your brain kind of needing to make these kinds of connections in order to learn things. But the point here is, again, actually making a real connection between the things either you already know or even new information as you're learning it together. But look at this. Like now you know, I mean, if you can draw a box, you can write kuchi, mouth, and it looks like a mouth, and it's easy to remember that way because you understood it. So even if you're not trying to learn Japanese now, you just learned some by accident, and you will probably never forget that. All right. Anyway, let me check chat, see if anybody has any questions. But again, the idea is about making connections, and just because something works faster doesn't mean it actually works. All right. Again, as you start building these connections, it becomes a lot easier to make connections with other things too. And then that's why what I do actually works faster than pretty much anything else you might do to learn. All right, Azar, nice to see you there from Saudi Arabia. Maria says, hello, teacher, long time. Happy to be back on board with you. Well, welcome back. Welcome back on the train here. VVN says, hi, dude. I've watched 3 full lives of yours this past week. Amazing tips, man. Really appreciate your work with 3 hearts. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, let me know if there's specific information that helped you, because that helps me do what I do better. Lots of people say that my information is helpful, but if I know exactly why that is, that's helpful for me. Raul says, hello, and Maria again, I became a smart teacher because I was following your videos. You are a great teacher. Well, it's my pleasure. I think I may make a version of the Strangest Fluency Secret for teachers. We'll see. But if you are a teacher and you don't have the Strangest Fluency Secret already and you want to become a better teacher, or at least, you know, in my humble opinion, I think this way actually helps people learn a lot better. And so if you'd like to learn how to do that, you can see exactly how it works. Other teachers are following the book, and you can click on the link in the description to learn more about that if you don't have it already. Mohammed says, tell me, my teacher, how to speak a lot about different topics with a way to organize and what I'm talking about. I'm B1 or B1 plus, because when I'm talking about any topic, it's hard. There are many vocabulary. I have a whole video about this, about, what's it called? How to speak fluently about almost anything. It's a pretty popular video. But you should watch that video because I talk about this same idea. But the core of not only that video, but even this or any of the things I teach, is that we really want to help people understand things really well. Because if you can take a few words that you know really well, you really understand them, like I'm showing you here, the learner who goes through this process is going to feel much more confident about speaking than the learner who goes through this process over here. Because there actually is no connection. I've put 2 things next to each other and you have to kind of build a connection between them somehow. But if I help you as a teacher make those connections, then you can get fluent much faster. So that video, it basically talks about how when you're learning things, if you can understand them really well, that allows you to use those for a wide range of things. So we could talk about, I don't know, what did I talk about? Like I gave the example, actually I'll give you another example in just a minute. But in that video I gave actually a few examples because that video came from a learner who wrote me and was feeling depressed because they couldn't read a lot and they understand a lot, but they have trouble talking about different things. And even though they're watching lots of movies and videos and things like that, often the key really is basically this. It's like, if you're trying to get lots of content, but you don't know it very well, and when I say know it, I mean feel certain about using it. This is really the purpose of my book. So trying to explain this process, the book works in the same way. It leads you through a series of discoveries so that you understand how you should be learning. But it works very well, even though I'm not finished with it yet. I've already got lots of great feedback. People are enjoying the book, which I'm happy to see. But again, that's the same idea. So if you are wanting to speak well about a number of things, just like English-speaking children or children who speak any language, they might not know many words, so they have a smaller vocabulary, but because they know it well, they're able to apply that in many different situations. So just like in these videos that I make here, I actually use a lot of simple vocabulary. I'm not trying to give you lots of movie quotes or idioms or difficult slang or phrasal verbs, things like that. I'm just using a lot of basic vocabulary to help people learn. And because I know this vocabulary well, I know how to use it so I can communicate fluently and help you understand the language as well. So I recommend you watch that video if you'd like to learn more about that. But the basic idea is really what I talk about in all my videos. It's about understanding things well enough to use them, not just understanding things. So I know people will argue with me about this as well. I will say, you don't really know the language as well as you think you do. If you understand, but you can't use it, that is the gap for you. So you have to cross that or bridge that gap, just like we're doing here. Like there's a gap between faucet and jaguchi. Maybe even faucet is a new word for you in English. But again, if I'm trying to teach you something in a new language, I do not want to teach you this way because it is fast, sure, but is it memorable? Probably not. And so again, that's why we want to take more time. And when you know something really well, it's like, oh, look at that. Like I learned something and that easily just kind of, seeped into my brain without me trying to work hard or study hard or practice hard or whatever. All the things that people typically think they need are because they're trying to learn this way and force information into their brain instead of just making a bridge that lets the information connect automatically. So again, watch that video if you are interested in that. Let's see. All right, Mohammed says, tell me my teacher how... Oh, okay, I got that one already. Let's see. Gabber says, I don't understand you. What do you teach? Just explaining words. Well, Gabber, why don't we begin with why you are here watching this video? Why don't you tell me that, and then I'll tell you how I can help you. All right, Mohammed says, this way helps me but takes more time than usual. Again, you have to think about the broader picture of how fast you want to learn and how quickly you want to speak, over more than 5 minutes. So if you're saying, yes, look, I just gave you this, it's easy to give you a translation, you can go to Google and get that. But to actually learn something so you feel confident about using it, it takes a little bit more time. The good news is, once you know things, it becomes faster and faster to learn new information. That's the point that most people miss. So they're only thinking about an individual difference between an example, but if you get a few of these, it makes it much easier. We've already kind of laid the foundation here. Now we can easily plug in new things to these connections that we've got over here. So then it's like, oh, I can learn this new thing and this new thing. Let me give you an example of that, or I will in just a moment. After I finish these questions here. Sergio says, hello, and Yo says, do you think that practice shadowing can improve my English? Well, shadowing is really something that's, for me anyway, when I'm explaining this to people, it's a lot easier to focus on understanding first, like this. So you don't necessarily have to shadow. It's more about refining your ability to speak, but we want to get you to understanding things really well first. Let's see here. All right, so Wilson says, let me answer that question. Absolutely. If practice, for example, 10 minutes every day, how long can I see the result? 2 weeks, people will tell you it happened to me. Can you recommend any channel, please? Do a podcast on Spotify. I do Pick American English. Yeah, you can there are lots of examples of things you can shadow, whatever you want to watch, movies or TV shows or anything. But again, my purpose is not just to help you copy what other people do or even sound like other people, although that's a nice benefit, but that comes naturally as you actually start to understand the language better. All right, so Gabor again has how you teach, e.g. the grammar, e.g. present perfect. So for example, looking at your comments is how you teach. Like you would say, how do you teach? So that's just an example of like a grammar point here where potentially you're watching videos because you know a lot of English, but you don't actually use it very well. But yeah, let me know if that's correct, and I can give you an example with the present perfect. Let me know what your issue with the present perfect is. Do you not understand it, or you need help using it, or you know maybe the grammar structure, but you don't feel certain about using it in your conversations? Let me know specifically what your issue is. Let's see, D says, I'm able to keep small conversations, but I feel lost with my vocabulary study. And Wilson says just to improve your pronunciation. Yeah. So again, you can learn a lot from shadowing, and not just pronunciation. You can actually improve your grammar and ability to communicate just because you're paying attention to what other people are doing. But as usual, you can answer these questions for yourself. Like, does X method give me fluency? And you can try whatever you like. Like if shadowing is that thing for you and you like learning that way and it's working, then keep doing it. You don't need me to give you permission or, my blessing or anything like that. It's just, okay, if a particular thing works for you, then keep doing it. But what I've found is that even with shadowing or whatever, if you don't understand something well, you probably won't feel confident about using it. And so that's why that's my focus. So that's exactly what I talk about in the book, like leading people to that conclusion. You're trying to speak. The moment you want to say something, if you don't feel sure about your words, you're probably not going to use them. And that makes a lot of sense. It's like, okay, if I don't feel confident talking about something, how can I talk about it? But the moment you do, like you feel certain about something, you get that aha moment of like, now I got it. I understand how it works. Then I can feel confident about using it. So let me give you another example. Maybe Gabor will come back with some more specific information for me. But until then, let me share something else related to this. So this happened a few nights ago at home. I was with my family having dinner, and I actually forget what the example was, but my kids had asked me something about food because we were eating food, and I didn't just tell them the answer to it. I gave them a kind of riddle, like a question. I was like, all right, what do you think? How do we say this or whatever? Because they were, I think, just asking me something like that. And so kids, like most people, even my wife was interested in this. They were trying to figure out the answer to this thing, and then they got it. And then they asked me for more. So they said, all right, well, give me some more riddles. Give me some more questions about English. And again, this is me just teaching my own family English in the same way any person, who's a native speaker of a language would teach their kids. But I'm trying to do this in a specific way, like I'm showing here in this video about helping them make connections. So I said, okay, let's look at cheese, since we were talking about food, and I think my older daughter was getting some cheese or something, and we were just talking about different kinds of cheese, like the different form of it. So you got powdered cheese, like little, looks like dust, powdered cheese. But I said, okay, here's a quick quiz for you. What do we call this? Like, these little packs, like very thin, we got some squares like this. So a bunch of pieces of cheese in a little pack like that. So we have a pack altogether. The whole thing is a pack of cheese. Well, what do we call the individual pieces in here? And so, they're taking a little bit of time, giving me some guesses. And after a while, I said, it's kind of like pizza. We have a pizza, and you take, a section of it. Here's a little piece of pizza right here. And they're saying, like a slice of pizza. And I said, yeah, and that's what we have. We've got little cheese slices. So just like we take a knife and cut something like that, we cut it. We're slicing, just like I might be cutting something, and I might, if I cut my finger, I could say I slice my finger. So we have a noun and a verb here when we're just looking at this. I'm not explaining about nouns and verbs and things like that to my kids, but I'm just explaining this in a very casual way. So we got cheese over here, cheese slices, and we've got a pack of cheese. And I said, all right, well, what about, you've seen maybe like kids, or anybody really, but these pretty big pieces like this. You maybe see these, a whole bunch of these things stacked up in a warehouse or something, or you go to a restaurant, like an Italian restaurant, and they've got some of this over here. This, what do we call that? It's a what of cheese. And so we continue. They just keep asking me for more quizzes or whatever, and we're spending 10 minutes talking about this stuff. And I'm saying, okay, look, like we've got one of these things. So we know this is a slice over here, one slice. what do we call this? And they're kind of thinking, they're like, I don't know, a circle of it. I said, well, yeah, it could be a circle. A circle is more like a flat thing. This is actually like, more like a cylinder, So a cylinder looks like this, like a kind of a long pipe like that. So it's not a circle of cheese. A circle would be more of a flat kind of thing. Maybe you could say that like a circular slice of cheese. But I said, no. I said, what does it look like, though? And, they're just kind of giving me some ideas. And my older daughter says, a tire of cheese. And I kind of laughed a little bit because I hadn't thought of that. But I thought, oh, that's actually quite clever. Look at that. It kind of looks like a tire on your car. And so I said, actually, that's very close. And so they're still thinking. And she was like, I got it. A wheel of cheese. And so when my daughter is thinking about that, like both of them get the idea, and you can see what I'm doing here. It's like I begin with one thing, make a connection to something else, and that's all I'm doing. I'm just leading them on a series of connections where they can actually understand things and feel much more confident about using them. So when they finally get it, like a wheel, the last thing I give them is like, what about this one? Maybe you've seen this shape in Tom and Jerry. Rhea says, can you say sliced body? Yes, you could. Like you could, cut somebody or cut a thing like that. And you could slice anything. You slice a tomato. It's that, like cutting through something. It could be with a sword or a knife or something like that, but slice. And again, this is why we spend time really trying to help people understand the language, because when you ask questions, it means you're still uncertain about something, and that's fine. Your brain is trying to understand that thing. It's like, ooh, this word slice. I wonder if I could use it in this way. So you ask a question about that. Then you get the answer. You feel more confident because you're making more connections. All right? So this was the last one I gave them. See if you guys have the answer to this one, but this kind of shape, I've kind of drawn it badly here. I'll give you a C. Kind of a... There you go. That's a little bit better. What do we call that? This is a what? So it's not tire. A wheel of cheese. What do we call that? You could say it's a piece or a chunk. A chunk is, maybe it doesn't have a particularly clean shape, but especially when something has a nice shape like that, we often give it a name. So when we're asking for something like that, what do we call it? See if you guys can figure that out as I look at the other questions here. All right. So hopefully, D, you're feeling, let me just make sure I review that. I'm able to keep small conversations, but I feel lost with my vocabulary study. Tell me exactly what you mean by that. What do you mean by you feel lost with your vocabulary study? Like the actual study itself? You don't know how to learn words or what? Let's see, Gabber says, I understand present perfect, but I did not learn from you. What can you teach me or us? You native English speaker, okay. All right. So again, like looking at the incorrect English in your comment, like I feel the you're like what can you do about it, man? It's like I get it. It sounds like you're frustrated because you know some English, but you're clearly watching videos because you're not actually happy with how you speak. And that's why I asked you about that before. Why are you here? So why are you here? I can actually help you understand something if you tell me a specific problem. But if you say you understand the present perfect, but I did not learn from you, what can you teach me or us? It depends on what you want to learn. It's like if you go to school and you take particular classes and things, you want to know something. What do you want to know? So what is the thing you are struggling with other than just the basic grammar errors that you have here? Why are you here? Wilson says, great teacher right here. I have learned a lot from you. Glad to hear it. Azar says, it depends on you and your ability. If you practice for 10 minutes, it may take a month. It may take 3 months. And we've got, I can't read the Cyrillic. Hello, Drew. How do you think when Ukraine gets tomahawks from the United States? Well, I think it's all a disaster. I'd like to see all that finished. And yeah, it's embarrassing all the way around. I don't really talk about politics on this channel, but yes, it would. I would like to see that finished. Keiko, nice to see you there. Long time no see. And Gabber says, okay, don't worry about me, but many thanks. I've never been in abroad, just in Hungary, in Europe. Speak me speak me 3 minutes Japanese language. I wonder how you teach Japanese in Japanese, the English language. Well, I wouldn't teach Japanese in English. I would teach Japanese in Japanese if I were teaching that. I'm not a Japanese teacher, but I could. I'll give you a Japanese lesson right now if you're curious. So これはマーカー。ね。マーカー。全部はマーカー。全部ね。これ。で、これは黒いマーカー。黒いマーカー。青いマーカー。黒いマーカー、青いマーカー、赤いマーカー。他のはないかな。これありますね。これは黒、青、赤。これは赤、青、黒、青でしょ。赤、青、黒、青。All right, so I don't expect you to remember any of that, but it's just a quick demonstration of how you could learn a language in that language, if I make it understandable for you. So going back, the example you gave, like I've never been in abroad. So that's just like a typical mistake of not like you've probably learned some language, and obviously you can understand at least some of what I'm saying, and you can use quite a bit of English here. But when you make mistakes like I've never been in abroad, that tells me that either you learned that through translations. I'm sorry, it's right up at the top here. I've never been abroad, or maybe you heard that somewhere, but you didn't hear I've never been abroad. And so when you actually get real examples of the language and you understand how people speak for particular situations, that's where you learn the real things people say and you don't make mistakes like that. So probably if you were from Hungary, you're learning English maybe through Hungarian, maybe you're also getting some English examples. But again, when people are typically learning languages, that's what they're doing. So this video talking about learning English in English, you would not make a mistake like that if you were learning that way. So again, it depends on kind of what you're specifically interested in learning with. I can feel your kind of like argumentative nature though. You're like, all right, man, prove it. Like what can you do to teach me? But again, like the purpose is not to just give you random language. What I do is help people connect with the language so they feel confident about using it. If you don't feel confident about using what you learn, then it means you actually haven't made a good connection with that. And that means even particular things, like maybe you don't know words well, or you don't understand the grammar well, and that's why you can understand, because you don't need to feel certain and confident when you're listening. It's easy to just understand the general idea of what someone says. But when you have to think and speak, when it's your turn and you think, wait a minute, do we say, I've never been abroad, or I've never been in abroad, or I've never been at abroad? If you're struggling with any of those grammar questions, it means you actually don't know the language as well as you think. So what I do is get you to that point where you do. So the students who work with me, like go through my programs or even reading my book right now, they learn, until I actually feel confident saying something, then I'm probably not going to speak very well. So if you have a specific question about like a grammar point or something that maybe you think you know, but you don't feel confident saying it, then whether you're asking me or not, that's the thing you should be thinking about. It's how do I make connections with the information so that I can feel confident speaking. But again, I can't like really help people more than giving them specific examples if they have maybe specific things that they struggle with. So if you can begin with something like that, let me know. All right, let's see. Where did I live? George says a laughing cow cheese. Yes, so that's a particular brand. Rem, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Can you teach grammar? Well, yeah, teach anything. I mean, grammar isn't like a separate thing, somewhere over here. Even the words I'm reusing right now are vocabulary and grammar and pronunciation. So I don't teach grammar as like a separate thing. But again, like this is an example of grammar right here. But when people think of grammar in the traditional language learning sense, they have like here's a grammar rule and some examples of it. What I'm doing when I teach is actually trying to help you connect situations with particular grammar patterns. And so it's similar, but the point is I'm helping you understand, like, instead of like in a typical language lesson, you would get like a word like as, and we just say, okay, now we're going to look at a whole bunch of different examples of that, and hopefully you remember those examples. That's how the languages are typically taught. And so we want to just go through that, like we've got as good as it gets, or as funny as whatever. And that's one particular usage of it. We'll give you a bunch of examples, and hopefully you remember that. But most people don't, and they struggle like, okay, how do I use this word? How do I use as? All right. Now what I do, like we're not going to do that way. We're going to pick a particular pattern and focus on that until we actually understand it. For example, I work as, I work as a teacher, for example. The purpose of this is not to just help you understand, like, here's what as means. It's here's how as is used in this particular situation. And then we would get more examples like, I use this as a head scratcher. And you think, oh, that's interesting. Here's another example of that, but it's not just about working. So people might get this example and they think, oh, this is a construction for, this person works as a teacher, or I work as a firefighter, or I work as, whatever. And so they have a kind of narrow view of here, like how something would work. But what we're trying to do is help your brain make connections with the vocabulary. And so again, like I use this as a toothpick. I use this as a toothpick. It's kind of like a tool I'm using. So it's a similar example, but we're really focusing on it not to just teach you the word as. It's in this kind of context or in this situation, here's a pattern that natives commonly use. And as you get more examples, well, there's a different one. As you get more examples, you will feel more confident using it. So here we've got one usage of it. Here we have another one, but I'm not trying to give you a whole bunch of examples of grammar like that. The point is, can I help you understand something and feel confident about this usage of it? And then maybe you could think of others, other things like, I work as something, like you change the sentence just a little bit. I work as a firefighter. I work as a cleaner. I work as a whatever. Okay? Or we could use it in the tool use, like I'm talking about. I use this as a writing tool. I use this as a head scratcher. I use this as a toothpick. Okay? So again, when we're trying to think about things, like the typical way people do it is just to give you as much information as you can, like you're teaching a computer. But people don't think that way. We actually need to make memorable, emotional connections with the information, or we will most likely forget it. Okay? But this is an example of how this works. And so when you're teaching like how do you teach grammar, this is it. So I am teaching grammar here, but it's not like, take a word and then try to remember it like that. You want to actually use the language and understand specific things. And then you build from there. As you know this thing, then you can learn others more easily. Okay? And this is how I taught myself Japanese. This is the process I show in the book of how you can actually become a confident speaker in English, or really any language. It's basically the same process. But it's more about getting certainty about what you're learning in the language. Okay? All right, let's see. Where else did we get here? Okay, people are still answering that. Okay. Melinda says a triangle. Mohammed says a triangle of cheese. Yeah, let me answer that. A cone of cheese. Yeah, so let me since I didn't go back to that here. So here's our, so if we had this, this kind of shape here, that would be maybe a cone of cheese, if someone could actually make that. But this shape over here, so I'm talking with my family about this. Sorry, I forgot I even gave this example. So this shape here, I said, we have this shape elsewhere in the house. It's by the front door. It's by the front door. And now I'm trying to give them a clue. So we've got this thing here, and I said, we have something like this. It's by the front door. So I'm, again, trying to lead them to make a connection. It's something by the front door. And then they were saying, okay, maybe I remember, and my mother-in-law, she's paying attention to this too. Her English is all right. She doesn't really like me teaching her so much, but I enjoy it, and she's listening, and she likes it because, Dran just gave the answer. But anyway, so we're going through, and she said a doorstop. And I said, yes, you're exactly right. So by the door, we have, the same kind of thing like this. A doorstop. And so my daughters, they say, it's a doorstop of cheese. A doorstop of cheese. And I say, no, it's not a doorstop of cheese. What is this shape? And I don't know if I had taught that to them, but I said, look, you can find this in your machine book that we have, teaching about things like this. And I just told them the answer, which Dran just gave now. A wedge, W-E-D-G-E, a wedge of cheese. So this shape right here, often you will go to a grocery store and you will find cheese in this kind of shape. It might be, a circle, kind of rounded edge. But the general idea, we're going to take, just like a kind of slice of pizza. The reason we call it a slice of pizza is because a pizza is flat. But typically, again, we have a wheel of cheese. And if we're going to cut out a section of it, it's going to look kind of 3D like this. So it's kind of more of this shape. And so we have that idea of a wedge of cheese. So this little tool here, if we're going to put a wedge in something, it's the same idea. Anyway, so I'm talking for 10 minutes with my family about this. We're going through these ideas, but they finally get it, and they're like, okay. But the point is, it's not just to give them the answer because they're going to forget it. They don't know what that is anyway, and they may not remember the word wedge. But again, it's just what they're interested in. Let's see. All right, so hopefully that solves that for people. But yeah, everyone had good ideas about there. Giles says, I have a difficult with the past perfect. Could you give me an explanation about it? The past perfect. Sure. I think Gabor mentioned the present perfect anyway. Let me just do a quick explanation about this. All right, so number one, when people are talking about a particular grammar point, just like they say, Drew, I don't understand the word as. Can you help me understand it? And I say, all right, let's not worry about the word as just floating up in the air like a cloud. It's connected to particular things. You need to build a connection to the word through the examples like I just gave. So you need to be actually connecting with specific uses of the word. So let's look at the present perfect. And again, we're not trying to just teach the present perfect. We want to help you understand what it means. Okay? So for example, I can have, and I've actually given this video or given this example a number of times. I think it's in the book. Maybe it is. I don't remember. It's been a while. But anyway, let's begin. So I have, let's see, I have a marker. I have a marker. Pretty easy to understand. I think everybody here would probably understand that. I have a marker. I'm holding it in my hand. I have a marker. I can also say I have a hand. Look at that. I do. I have a hand. I have many things. I've got many body parts. So this is a marker. It's not connected to me, but I can hold on to that thing. So this one, it is connected to me. Like I have a hand. This is my hand right here. I could also talk about something non-physical. I have an idea. I have an idea. It's in my head right now. You can't see it. You can't touch it, but it's there. I can tell you I have an idea. But all of these are basically the same kind of thing, and everybody probably understands them. So to have something in this way is like I have a physical thing, I'm holding it, or I have a hand, you can see it here. I have an idea in my head, or I have an experience. Now, an experience is interesting. So I have an idea, or I have, excuse me, an experience. So if we're looking at time, so this is now me here standing talking with you in the now. But let's say something happened to me 5 years ago. So just say 5 years ago. Maybe I went to China, for example. So I went to China. So I have an experience of going to China. And so I can talk about that, like the thing happened, I went to China. I went to China. That's the experience itself. But I carry that experience with me. It is an experience I had. Okay? So 5 years ago I went to China, but the experience, it's still with me. Even now. So I have an experience of going to China. I have that experience. Okay? So I have an experience of doing that, or in just a more casual way, we can say I have been to China. Or China. C-H-I-N-A. I have been to China. So what we're really saying with the present perfect here is I have this experience, like I still have it. I have it right now, but it happened in the past. So it's just an experience. I did that thing. So I can say both of these examples. I went to China, for example. So I can talk about just the experience myself, or I can talk about me. I went to China. So I went to China, I went to China. So this is just talking about the experience. Or if I want to talk about who I am, a part of me is that experience. So if you think about like me as a person, it's all of these different experiences that happen. Like I was born in Chicago. That's part of who I am. Okay? So that happened to me. It's still a part of who I am. I was, I'm still a person who was born in China. But again, when we talk about the present perfect, it's like something that happened in the past. In this case, and again, I'm trying to get you to focus on specific situations, not like thinking about the whole idea of like what is the present perfect as a kind of magical, like floating in a cloud idea. We really want to understand what's going on here. So I can talk about the experience, or I can talk about who I am. I have that experience. I have been to China. I have eaten pizza. I have, whatever the thing is. I have played baseball. I have gone shopping. So I have all those experiences. Like I went shopping, and I still have the experience. It's still a part of me. Okay? So that's the present perfect. We're talking about something happening right now. If we want to talk about like the past, like I had been doing something, it just means I don't do it anymore. So it's slightly different. It's like I had been doing a particular thing. So I had been doing X. So I had been like playing an instrument, or I had whatever we're talking about. Actually, this is like past perfect continuing. Anyway, you can see how like the purpose of these things is to connect from one to the other. And so we want to connect to this, connect to that. And as you see the whole idea here, it becomes a lot clearer what we're talking about. Okay, so it doesn't matter if we're talking about something that's still a part of you, like I can talk about an experience. And remember, I'm not just talking about what is the present perfect. It's just the way a native would explain this to you is how I'm explaining it to you now. They might not explain it this clearly, but that's the basic thing. So when people talk about experiences, that's how they talk about it. I have been to China. I have played this. I have never played the piano. I don't have that experience. I have not played the piano. I have never played the piano. Okay, so I don't have that experience. I can talk about things I do have and things I do not. Experiences I do have and experiences I do not. I have never been to India. I have not been to India. I've not been to China actually either. But I have lived, for example, I have lived in Japan for 20 years on and off. So if we're talking about something that started in the past and it's still going, I have lived for this amount of time. So I'm just trying to give you a related set of examples around this particular idea. But the purpose is not to get you to memorize what the present perfect is. It's just for these situations, do you understand how to express that? Do you understand why we're doing it that way? So what are we talking about here? I have been, or like I had been, or like I had done, whatever in the past, and I don't do it anymore. So I can talk about an experience of playing baseball. So I don't play baseball now. I have played baseball. I have that experience. So years ago, I played baseball. And maybe I will play baseball again in the future. I don't know. But I have played. I have that experience. Okay? Just like I have a marker in my hand, I have an experience of something that happened in the past. All right? So you want to focus on something until you really understand it. When you get that aha moment of, okay, now I get it. Okay? So that's just one way of thinking about this, and you can continue to build these connections out. I don't want to spend a whole video talking about this because I have talked about these in previous videos, but hopefully people get the idea. You can let me know if it's not clear, because again, my job as the teacher is to help people understand things and feel confident about saying them. All right, let's see. All right. And all right, so hopefully Zhao, let me know if that makes sense. Raul says you should start teaching Japanese. Yeah, there are lots of Japanese teachers already, although most of them do not teach Japanese in Japanese that way. Wilson says, one more time, great teacher. Andrea says, it's cute to see an American speaking foreign language. Yeah, actually, I mean, quite a few Americans do, but yes, it's kind of actually embarrassing how few Americans have passports even, let alone speak other languages. D again says, I study on my at house. I had an accident and then I don't know how to improve my vocabulary and connect phrases as well. All right, well, keep following my videos and you will understand. The point is really just to connect things, like you're trying to learn something, you want to focus on that and make sure you understand it. Just get my book, actually. Just click on the link in the description below this video and it explains this whole thing very simply. And Kazaraval says, yo man, you see I'm good, yeah. And Padre says, for me it's so difficult to speak or public speaking in front of many people that make my brain blank and I cannot think anything. Yes, so that can be an issue for native speakers as well. So even fluent speakers of a language, many people do not like public speaking. I actually talk about this in my book also. Again, it's quite embarrassing even if you are fluent in the language. So I'd like to get that separated for people. The ability to speak in public is a different skill than just using the language. All right, so Giles says, how can I create this connection when I'm learning a grammar point? Hopefully I just gave you an example of how that works, but I show this in the book as well. All right, let's see. Kazaroval says, no secret. You would say there is no secret. Be inside, emerged. You would also probably say immersed rather than emerged. And again, like these are the kinds of things that, like if you were getting good examples of the language, you would feel confident using those things. But again, like to say that there is no secret about language learning is a little I don't know. It's like a little bit silly, really. It's like if I tell people, and I actually say this in my book. So people who say there are no like secrets to language learning, it's like, well, there are no secrets to anything then. So if we're in America over here, this is my bad picture of America, and I want to get to the UK, how might I do that? I could swim over there. I could swim from New York to, I don't know, what's over here in the UK, something over here, to Ireland or whatever. So I could swim over there, and most people would think, okay, like, let's say we imagine 200 years ago, how would you get to the UK? Well, I mean, really, you've got swimming. You could take a boat. It would take a while. You could do that. But if somebody comes along and says, hey, I've got this new thing called an airplane, people are like, there are no secrets. Like how? What do you mean? What are you talking about? You got to swim or take a boat. There are no secrets, and it's like, well, yes and no. Like you're not just going to magically get there, but there are faster ways to do things. You know. So what I do is I give people this. I'm not trying to just say, hey, here's a boat, or you can try to swim and figure it out for yourself. There are faster ways to learn a language because there are faster ways to do anything. Like you could pick whatever the topic is. There are people who are good at doing that thing and people who are not good at doing that thing. And you can probably find good clues to how to do that thing better. All right? So especially like when you're talking about learning a language, if you just say, just immerse yourself. Immersion is the secret. That's all you have to do. It's like, okay, hey, I'm going to teach you kids to swim today, jump in the pool, and hopefully some of you live. Am I a good teacher if I say that? Probably not. Maybe some of my kids die, but you know, that happens. This is what most people think language learning should be like. That's what they expect. They're just like, well, you know, it's a long and difficult process. There are no secrets. There are no faster ways to improve. It's like, well, that is the person on the boat saying there's no such thing as an airplane. And when you see an airplane, you might think like, what is that airplane flying over while I'm in my boat? And you think, well, that's just some clouds up there. I don't believe it. There are no secrets. Really? You really don't think there are faster, more efficient ways to learn languages? Of course there are. Why wouldn't there be? All right. All right. Answer some more questions over here. Let's see. Oh no, we got a bunch of questions now. All right. Ikram says, the first time on your live, hi from Algeria. I used to watch your playlist though. Well, welcome back. An says, please answer my question. I remember an ad about your online course. It's about explaining words in a natural way. Do you offer this online course? Please talk about it and how can I get it? Well, you can click on the links in the description below this video. That will take you directly to both Fluent For Life and the book, and the link to Frederick is in there as well. Let me know if you have specific questions about that though. But like explaining words in a natural way like I'm doing here, that's what I do in Fluent For Life. That's the whole point of that program. So you get to see me explaining things and helping you understand the language, but you also see lots of examples of natives actually using the language in different accents, different speeds, different tenses, all of that stuff that helps you learn the language very efficiently. Again, I'm trying to give people the airplane instead of the boat. But yes, you can click on the links in the description below this video and learn more. Dran says, Drew, why do you think kids learn language easily than adults? More easily than adults? Well, part of it is that they don't have anything in their head already. You know, it's like a wide open space, so you can just fill it with whatever. Also, kids don't really ask why. So if I say, hey, this is a marker, you know, I just tell a child, like, this is a marker. And they're just like, okay, it's a marker. But an adult is like, why do we call it a marker? You know, like adults are asking questions and wanting to know what's the reason for that. And it's like, well, you know, that's a mark right there. And this is a thing that marks. So we call that, you know, a marker. This is a thing that puts marks on a particular page. Like, hey, there's like a mark. You got a little mark on your on your hand. You have a trademark, like a symbol, like the Starbucks logo. It is a trademark. So again, we can build something like that, but even as an adult, you have to just accept the language at some point. We say, well, why do we call it a mark? You can keep going and asking more questions about how the language works, but at some point you just have to accept it, and kids are much better at doing that. But I think the tricky thing for adults is it's not that language learning is more difficult because, and I talk about this in the book, I actually say how it's actually much easier for adults to learn if you do it efficiently. So if you think about a child watching a video like for example, my 6-year-old daughter, Noelle, that's her name, she might be watching a cartoon on TV, and maybe she understands 30% of that. This is often what kids are doing. They're just getting lots of input. It's like, wow, here you go, here's all this input, and they don't really know what to do with all that. Fortunately, kids can often watch the same thing again and again, and maybe they love a movie and just see it a whole bunch of times, and each time they learn maybe a little bit more. Like, their family, so they watch a movie one time and then maybe their dad says something and then they watch the movie again and now they recognize a bit more information. And so it's actually a very long and slow process. That's why it takes a long time for people to learn even their own language. Plus kids have the physical ability, like they're just learning at first. You can't really speak when you're a baby, but you can distinguish between languages even at a few months old. So I can tell as a baby between Japanese or English or whatever. I know that people are speaking different languages to me. Anyway, so kids, it seems like they have advantages, but adults have advantages also. And the most important of those is that we can control what we learn. So if we can actually find good examples of the language that are understandable, like we're, instead of just watching something that we don't really understand, or we only understand some of it, we want to get specific input that's understandable. We're not overwhelmed by all this information. Like if I'm trying to watch some TV show in English and I don't know what it means, and maybe I learn a few words, it's just overwhelming for me. And so I have to watch the subtitles at the bottom of the video or the TV show or whatever because I don't understand. And so this is often, it's a mismatch of the learner and then the content level being too high. So you have to kind of build a staircase of understanding to get from one to the other. That's what I'm talking about making these different connections with things. So you can't really just jump from one thing to the other. It's actually quite difficult to do. Some people can, but you have to kind of mentally make those connections even if you don't have these little waypoints or individual maybe connectors like that. So when I teach, I don't just give people this thing and then give people that. I really want to help them understand these things. And when you feel that like, that aha moment, you're getting that each step of the way. Like the book, the chapters in the book are leading you through that same process. Because if I just say, hey, you can actually speak better if you get fluent first. It's so alien to people. If I start them here and then I say, hey, just get fluent first, then speak. Then people think, what? That's crazy, because I've jumped from here all the way to here. I have to have a whole book that takes me to explain these things to people. And again, it's not because anybody is stupid or anything like that. It's like a completely different way of doing something, just like trying to translate a language. You can't just jump from a language and then a translation in a different language. It doesn't help you learn anything. There's no connection there. You have to lead people to make sure, they can actually take those steps and get to the place where they need to be. So you could just tell them, but often it's just like learning through a translation. So kids, they do have some advantages, but adults have many more, and especially the ability to control what you learn is way more valuable than just being like a young child. Let's see. Chrono says, do you speak English or Japanese to your wife? I use both. Typically when I'm at home, though, I use English just because my kids are around and I want them to hear more English because they spend most of their day in Japanese. So I need them to get like English as efficiently as possible. Anne says again, you showed us how you taught your daughter a word. You explained the word in a special way. Well, again, like that's what I do in all of my videos. Again, it's just helping you make connections. If you're thinking about that video, I actually talked about that in this video about a previous video, which was how to speak fluently about almost anything. That's the title of that video, how to speak fluently about almost anything. But in that video, I give, like my daughter is asking me, hey, Dad, harsh. She says, what does the word harsh mean? So again, the word is just kind of floating out in space. And if I say, oh, harsh means this, and I just give her like a definition or a translation or something, she probably won't understand it. But if I can give a few examples that lead her to the understanding of the word, it makes it a lot easier. So I say, oh, harsh, where did you hear that? So first I'm trying to, again, remove the cloud and actually connect it to a particular situation. And so she said, well, one person was kind of yelling at somebody else, and the other person said, don't be so harsh. And I said, well, so what's happening in this situation? Like one person is kind of yelling or being mean to someone else. So another example is like, if I wash my hands with really harsh soap, I can feel like my hands are kind of dry and cracked after I do that. Or outside in the middle of summer, there's like the harsh sun. So it's not just like a gentle light, it's a harsh sun, or harsh rain and harsh wind. So I need to have a strong winter coat when I go outside. And as I give her these examples, she gets those aha moments. She's making those connections, and now she understands what it means. And so when she hears harsh, or she uses it herself, she knows exactly what she's talking about. But it's not just a thing floating out in space. Words only mean things when they're connected to particular situations. And that's why you can have a word like harsh, and maybe it means the same thing in different situations, but other words like the word trunk could mean different things depending on the situation. All right? But if you enjoyed that example, that's what I do. You get thousands of examples like that in Fluent for Life. That's the whole point of the program. So it's about helping you understand things, and you don't just get a couple different examples of what it is. You also hear natives using it in real life. You hear people using it faster or slower or different tenses, different contexts. All of that stuff actually prepares you to use the vocabulary confidently when you speak. So I've had, I guess, a difficult time over the years. Like, I'm very good at teaching, but you can see how like it takes a little bit of explanation to get people to understand how this works. That's why I wrote the book, because I just said, I was just so tired of like trying to explain this all the time, and now I just tell people, read the book. I've already laid it out, much more cleanly in there, even than you'll find in a, excuse me, a video like this. All right, let's see if I can go through this faster here. Richard says, how much for your private classes? I don't offer private classes, number one, because it would be too expensive for people. Number two, basically you don't need private lessons. Even if you got private lessons with me, I would help you learn a lot, but you still need lots of examples with native speakers. So the next best thing, it's like if you can't actually get private lessons with someone who knows how to teach like I do, so who knows how to give you aha moments and help you understand the language like a native, so you feel confident speaking. You have to find somebody like that, and you need to find multiple people who can do that. That would be the ideal situation. So I don't offer that, again, because it's not necessary. Instead, I've created Fluent for Life because it gives you that same experience. And if you have questions still, you just ask us and we respond, and that's how you get fluent. You don't need to have a private teacher there to explain things to you. Just like right now, you're watching this video. If you're learning from me right now, you're not speaking anything. or maybe you are, but I'm not having a conversation with you. You're learning from me. And if you have questions, you just type them in and I explain them to you. And really, people think they need to speak a lot to get fluent, but really what we're going for is understanding. When you feel confident that you know something, then you say it. So the speaking is the result of how we teach. It's not about trying to speak, and like, you know, I saw a video for some AI like language teaching app, and it was like a student would just say something and then the app would correct them. And then the student would say something else and then the app would correct them. And the company making this app, they make an ad like that because they know people want that kind of learning, but it's not actually making you a more confident speaker. I'm just like, okay, like I'm hitting my head against a wall. I'm trying to speak, but I don't actually feel confident. I will just keep speaking and the app will keep correcting me. That is a way to learn, but it's a much more inefficient way to learn than just having a good teacher who knows how to explain the language well so you feel confident about using it. Then you don't need to make mistakes. All right, but people think they need that, and that's why app companies like that make that particular program. Anyway, I feel like I'm getting distracted over here. I'm talking about too many different things here. All right, let me see if I can get through these. Let's see. Let's see. All right, so wait a minute. Okay, Gabber says, how can I understand English grammar? In Hungarian, we have different verb tenses. Again, hopefully, Gabber, I explained that to you. So the point is not to try to, it doesn't matter what tenses you have or how the grammar structure is in your native language. That's only important if you learn through translations. But if you learn English in English and make it understandable, like I do, then you will understand the language. So you don't have to worry about how your language is different. It doesn't matter. So wedge of cheese, oh, you heard that in math class. So in Hungarian, we don't have perfect tenses, which makes it difficult to understand English grammar. Yeah, again, like, don't worry about the grammar. It's not about the grammar or articles or whatever the thing is. It's just trying to connect with understanding situations, and then it's just understanding how natives use language for that. So in Hungarian, you express it one way, that's fine. In English, we express it in a different way. You know, that's just how it is. But it's easy to do if you learn it in English. Dran says, I wonder if those markers are refillable. I don't think they are. They might be. Let's see. Actually, yeah, it looks like there is like some kind of cartridge in here. I don't know how to pull it out, though. I don't want to mess with that and spray a bunch of ink on my face in the middle of this video. But it could be. I'm not the marker master or the marker keeper over here anyway. All right, Kazaraval says we can't see the R. Idea. The R? Oh, I get like, yeah, there's no R on idea. Hello, I'm Haney. Nice to see you there. Have a glass of water. Yeah, I should have a glass. I just have my regular bottle over here with my homegrown mint. Oh, that's soothing. That feels very, very good going down my throat after 72 minutes of talking over here. So Keiko says, as is difficult for me to use. It's like a chameleon. Yes. And so if you're trying to understand a particular thing like as or any other word, don't worry about the word itself. Focus on the word in a particular situation. Understand them one at a time. It's like you're trying to hold that one. Once you get that one, the others are easier to catch. But you can't try to chase a bunch of things at the same time. It's going to be too difficult to catch. What David says, a Chinese learner here. Yep. Gabber says, thank you, sir. All right, hopefully Gabber got the message. Mohammed says, but if we will take about the pronunciation like for to about extra, it's so hard for you talk another way or specific way to learn it because those changes meaning from sentence to another sentence. I don't quite understand what you're saying, but the point is, you have to think about how native speakers do this. When I'm teaching my daughters, so I have a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old daughter now, when I'm teaching them, I don't say, hey guys, here is the word as, and now I'm going to teach you all the different uses of as. We don't do that at all. We have a particular word in a particular situation or context. They hear the pronunciation, they hear the grammar, they hear all of that for that situation. And then later, maybe they hear a new usage of that word and they think, okay, so as means this, but I can also use it for this other thing over here. Okay. So again, it's if you think in the typical language learning way, they're trying to teach you like a computer, but you can't learn that way. People don't learn that way. Computers learn that way. They can get that information and just store it very easily, but we don't function that way. So we actually have to connect with the program or the language or whatever it is we're learning. Let's see. And let's see. Yes, experience is the key. Giles says, if I wanted to say it using the past perfect. So again, like think about how you would say it. Like if I'm talking about like the present perfect, I have whatever. So I have like played. I have played. We'll just keep it short. So I have played. Like if someone asks me about baseball, I can say, yes, I have played. I have played baseball. Like if I'm talking about like the past, like I had done something is kind of like I'm talking more about like having that experience in the past. Like from this time until this time, I played baseball. So I had done it, but then I stopped doing it in the past. So you could say either. I mean, often native speakers in really any language have multiple ways they can describe something. So if I say I have played baseball, I'm just talking about me having the experience. But if I say like I had played, it's like I did it, and I'm talking more focusing on the period of time. Like I did that thing, from this time until that time. Like I had done that, but then I did not, and then here's now over here. So it's still in the past for a particular amount of time. Bai says, Drew, how do native speakers know which adjective order is correct? Like a big black dog instead of a black big dog. Do you think naturally varied review would get a feel for it? Yes. So again, native speakers are using naturally varied review also. They just don't call it that. They're just calling it input or lots of examples or whatever. But yes, typically you develop a sense for what is correct by just seeing the general things that people say for situations like that. And then we think, okay, like instead of trying to memorize, it's the color and then the shape and then this thing and that thing, like don't worry about that. Just get a bunch of examples and that will make you feel a lot more confident about how to use it. And it's not even that I could say like, yeah, that black big dog over there or that big black dog over there, like it's not like one is grammatically correct and the other is not. It's some things are just kind of a social convention, but also it depends on the situation. Like I keep coming back to that. The situation is maybe I'm trying to focus on a particular attribute or adjective, and I focus on that and say that one first. Like, ooh, look at that black big dog over there. Or look at that big, whatever. And so I could reverse the order of those things, and people will understand what I'm talking about. They're not going to say, hey, you didn't put it in the right order. Nobody would care. Everyone would just understand the meaning I'm getting at, and that's the important thing. So again, the point is not to like watch an English lesson video about do the color and then do this and then do that. Again, like our brains are just not very good at remembering rules in that way. But we can understand patterns pretty quickly if we get a lot of good examples. And that's what naturally varied review is designed to do. All right. Let's see here. What is... All right, I got that one. Zhao says, what if I want to say the same thing using the past perfect, like I had been to China? What would change? So I had been to China. Well, like in that case, it's not always like the situation makes sense. Like I had been to China, you wouldn't really say I had been to China because you still have been to China. There's nothing changing about that particular thing. That's why the past perfect is typically used for some kind of ongoing activity. And this is again, I keep repeating myself, why you're not trying to begin with the grammar point, you're trying to begin with the situation. So we want to look at what are people talking about, what kinds of things when they use the past perfect rather than what is the past perfect. So in this situation, like I had been to China, Like if I said that to someone, they'd be like, what do you mean you had been to China? Like, could I somehow erase that experience and now I don't have that anymore? Like no one would say that. But like I had worked at this, one factory for 2 years and then I stopped. So I'm talking about a specific experience, an ongoing kind of thing. I could even say I had lived in China for 5 years before I got deported. So again, I'm talking about like living in a thing rather than the experience of a thing in general. So if I'm like some ongoing activity, if it happened in the past or it's happening currently or it started in the past and it's still happening now, it just depends. So we're beginning with that situation and then getting the kind of grammar or whatever, the way of expressing it that you will learn from that. Again, if you'd like to learn more about this in detail, get the book. It explains all of this. And you can click on the link in the description below the video to get it. All right, we need to dig inside. Mohammed says, while you were talking, you'd say while you were talking, you said either. So what the difference between either and neither? Well, either means you could do this thing or that thing, and neither means you can't do either of those. So sometimes like I could say like, and again, natives can express the same situation in different ways. So I can do either. Or I could say either. You will hear people, and again, this is this is why it's important to get naturally varied review. You don't want to just hear me say a word. You want to hear other natives say it as well, because you'll say, well, my teacher said either, and this person said either. Like, which one is correct? It's like, well, both of them are correct. It just depends on who you're speaking with. People have different accents, different voices. So again, I'm repeating myself as usual, but this is why we want to learn and understand things efficiently, but we need to get lots of varied review. If you only learn from me or only learn from whatever teacher, you're not going to get that whole picture of the language and really feel confident about using it. There are lots of speakers in the world, all right? You should get more experience with a variety of them. So I can do either, like I can like do this thing or I can do that thing. Or I can't. Let's say I can't do either. I could say that also. If I say, well, there's this thing or that thing, like I can't speak Hungarian and I can't speak Chinese. I can't do either of those things. I can't do either, all right? Or I could say I can do neither. It's just another way of saying it. I can do neither of those things. All right, it's just two different ways of expressing the same thing. So again, I'm trying to get you to focus more on, in this situation, what do we say and how might natives express it differently? How might their pronunciation be a little bit different? When I'm a young child growing up in the United States, I don't just hear one teacher. I hear my mother and my father and my friends and people on TV. I hear all of these different people saying the same things or giving me different ways of expressing the same situation. That's the value of that variety that most programs will never give you, because it's just one person trying to teach you the language. You really need to have systematic exposure to a wide range of content if you want to become a confident speaker. Because you're not just, with like one teacher in your real life. You will hear people in movies or TV shows or whatever. And that's how you become a confident speaker. Let's see. I keep getting too many comments. Let's see here. Alejandro says, "What's up, bro? Greetings from Mexico." Dran says, "What should be the mindset when you try to listen from a native English speaker to try to learn from them so inputs will stick in the mind longer?" Well, it's not like a mindset issue. It's more of a focus issue. So if a native speaker is talking to me and I am interested in a particular thing, or I maybe hear something and want to understand that better, then I try to focus on that. So I might say like, "Oh, tell me more about that thing, like explain more about that," or "I don't know what that is, tell me more." So my focus, I can control the conversation and get more information about things that I want to know about. But sometimes I'm going to hear things in a conversation and it's like a child, watching a TV show, and I'm not going to get it all. Maybe some people use some vocabulary that I just don't know. and it's okay. But I try to focus on things one at a time and make sure people really get it. Let's see. All right, D says, I bought the book right now. Awesome. Let me know what you think of it. And what method of learning language is best for you? It's the language or the learning method I lay out in the book. That's exactly what it is. So that's, like, I tried everything. I tried every kind of learning method you could think of, and the only thing that really made a difference for me was either I could understand something well enough to use it or not. That was it. So when I'm in a conversation, if I feel unsure about some Japanese, I'm not going to say that. I will say it in a different way. Same thing in English. Like, if I'm writing something and I forget how to spell it or whatever, then I'm going to write it in a different way. Like, native speakers do that all the time. So again, if you're curious about how I learn and how I teach, and you're not already kind of seeing that, I usually make these YouTube videos so people can get examples and actually see how it works. But the book lays out everything cleanly, and you'll see the whole thing. Mohammed says, it's wrong when I ask myself those questions, like what's the called marker, as you said, if this is wrong, how to stop thinking like that. Like an adult, sorry, I don't get this. Is it part? Do I get it the wrong way? No. Like, I'm saying as an adult, you will naturally ask why the language works in a particular way. Children usually do not. Children just accept the language because they don't really, I don't know. It's an interesting thing about language learning for children versus adults. But adults typically need to have a why for something. And so they will always ask why? Why does it work that way? And I do the same thing. I'm like, wait a minute, I heard this thing in the language. Why do they do that? Why don't they do this other thing over here? And so that's part of the brain. It's, the adult part of the brain that doesn't accept things as easily. And so you have to make that connection for your brain if you can. So it's just a different process. But it's not like a bad thing to ask questions. It's a natural thing you will do. Anne says, yes, that's the video. I really liked it because I understood the word harsh without translating or using the dictionary. What's the difference between what you offer in the book and the course? Well, the book is basically explaining the whole situation, like how you should be learning. And then either you can try to do that by yourself, which is possible. That's how I learn Japanese, because I don't know of anyone who teaches Japanese the way I teach English. So I just have to do it by myself. But for people who would like me to show them and just get them fluent, basically the same way I got you fluent in the word harsh, I can get you fluent in thousands of words like that by helping you understand them the same way a native does. That's what we do in Fluent for Life. So the book is the explanation of how you should be learning, or at least this alternative to traditional methods. And it's especially helpful for people who don't have anyone to practice speaking with. So if you are trying to learn and like you're living by yourself, or you don't have time, or you can't speak, or you're too shy or busy, or whatever the reason, that's why it can help you even more. So you don't need to wait to have a speaking partner in order to improve. Just like I helped you understand one word better, even though you didn't say anything, I can help you understand thousands of things better that way. It's all waiting in the program. So if you'd like to learn more, just click on the links in the description. But if you're curious about Fluent for Life, I really recommend you get the book, because that explains the whole process really well. It's more than, like, if I took all that information and put that on the page about here's what Fluent for Life is, people would just be like, oh my God. Like the basic idea, I'll just tell you what it is. It's this kind of example over here. So most students start up here with the basic belief that I have to speak to get fluent. I have to speak to get fluent. Now the tricky thing here is it's often difficult to speak, or when you're in conversations you make mistakes, or you're worried about grammar, or you don't have anyone to practice with, or whatever. But this is basically what most learners believe about language learning. I have to speak in order to get fluent. But by the end of the book, so I have to lead you through a series of connections. I lead you to basically the opposite belief. So instead of I have to speak to get fluent, I have to get fluent to speak. And I'm laughing now because if I try to tell you directly, again, like I need a series of connections to lead you to this idea. Because if I just tell you this, you don't believe me. It just sounds impossible. Like, well, how am I going to do that? You know, that's you. What do you mean? Like everybody says, you know, everybody knows you have to speak to get fluent, right? And you can, it is possible, but again, it's like trying to go from the United States to the UK. Like trying to go from the United States to the UK by boat or by swimming there, that's what this is. But what I'm doing here is like, it's like traveling there by airplane. It's much faster, much more comfortable because you don't have to struggle with trying to speak in order to develop your ability. So when you watch that video from me explaining the word harsh and you thought, oh wow, I actually understand this word now, all in English. Isn't that interesting? Now you can feel confident using it. So what I'm showing you is that you actually get fluent first, kind of word by word as you understand things, and then you speak. So if this way is not working for you, either because you're trying it and you just don't feel confident speaking, or you don't have anyone to practice with, or you know, whatever, maybe you're busy, like this way is a lot easier to do. So the book explains why this is true. It's again just giving you an alternative for getting fluent. If this way is not working, try this way instead. So if my videos, if anything I'm saying in this video, even just this video itself, is making you feel more confident about speaking, I'm proving that this is correct. If I can help you understand something really well and feel confident about using it, then you will speak. Because what would stop you? If you feel confident about saying something, what would stop you from speaking? That's the basic idea. It's just the exact opposite of what most people do, so it sounds very unbelievable. So I need to be very careful about how I explain that to people. All right, last couple of questions here. Mom, it says, back in the lesson I got an issue while I use representative, how to use it in my day and give me example my teacher how to do with that. I don't know what you mean. Back in the lesson, what lesson? I got an issue while I use representative. I don't understand. What do you mean by that? Teddy says, hello from Malaysia. Your online student 5 years ago. May God bless you. Healthy and happy with your family. Glad to hear it. And Syed says, good morning from Egypt. I have a question. When I listen to you, I get almost everything. However, when I listen to a movie or English content, I can't understand. Yes, and that's because I'm being intentionally easier to understand. So I'm being clearer, and I'm trying to use more basic vocabulary that you already know rather than introducing a whole bunch of things that you will find in movies and TV shows and that kind of thing. So if you want to understand that, this is what I lead you to in Fluent for Life. So if you actually want to be able to understand those movies and TV shows, part of that will come from me explaining things like I do, but also you will need to see examples of natives actually using the language. But that will prepare you versus just trying to do the typical ways of learning, or even just trying to watch movies or TV shows directly. Han says, did your kids shadow or imitate to practice English before? Well, and they just kind of repeat after me, like they hear something funny and they repeat it, just like kids watch things and repeat them on, from TV shows or whatever. But yeah, I mean, we don't sit and have shadowing time or whatever. Teddy says again, it's or what time is in Japan now? It's 11 a.m. on Thursday. Your English class really helps to improve my English. Glad to hear. If you know others who would benefit, please share the video. Mom says, I had do something in the past, but now I didn't. So what's the difference between used to and the past perfect? Again, I don't want to go into too much detail about explaining a whole bunch of different grammar points. Also, if you search my YouTube channel, you will find examples of things like this. But often for particular situations, you could use multiple things like that. Like I used to do something, it's just saying I don't do it anymore. Or I could say I have done something and like I probably don't do it anymore either. It's just two different ways of saying something. So it's not like it's like I could talk about money, like I could use 20 different words to describe money. And there's no difference between those for that particular situation. So what's tricky for people is they're thinking about a grammar point. It's like, here's a situation and I could describe that in different ways. Like I used to do something. I don't do it anymore. I used to do that. I used to drive a truck. I don't drive a truck now. I used to. Or I could even say like I have driven a truck. So I have that experience. So I could say that. These are just two different ways of describing the same kind of thing. But again, I could take these and like maybe they mean something different in other situations. And that's what gets tricky for learners. So remember, we want to look at things and see how we might use them for particular situations. Maybe we learn some other ways to do that, but we have to build these connections patiently. We have to make sure we understand something. That's how you feel confident using it. All right. The point is not to just remember used to, and now I'm going to try to learn a bunch of different uses of used to. Just connect it with one thing. All right. One thing at a time. Build your connections, and that's what will actually help you speak. All right. English Facile from Brazil said it's nice the way you explain. Glad to hear it. Hans says, what's the difference between shadow and imitate? For my purposes, I don't really have a difference there. It's more of like a marketing term than anything else. When people use it, it's like I'm shadowing something. It's like it sounds a lot cooler than just imitating them. I'm sure people can give you like a more detailed explanation of it. For me, it's just basically imitation, and I don't spend much time talking about shadowing because it's like it doesn't matter if you can repeat what other people say if you don't understand what they're saying. So I can repeat something all day. Like someone says something to me in Turkish, and I just repeat what they say, but that doesn't mean I can speak it. So understanding comes first, and then you start refining that, maybe if you want to develop your accent or whatever. Lewis says, hey man, Bai says, Drew, is it wrong to say a Japanese wooden, round, old, small, beautiful detail? I know it should be a beautiful, small, old, round. Well, I wouldn't even worry about that. Honestly, and if you're like, you will hear natives, I bet if you put a table like that in front of somebody, they will probably describe that in a couple of different ways. I would be very surprised if every native described that in the same way. Very surprised. So you could say like, look, it's like look at that small, beautiful table, or that beautiful small table. It kind of depends on what you're interested in focusing on. All right, Lewis says, hey man, is it necessary to understand movies to have a conversational dialogue? No. No. I mean, these things, they often overlap, but you don't need to do one to do the other. Eunice says, oh my goodness, I think I came too late. Is the show about to end? Yes, it's about to end. We're at 90 minutes already. And of course, I always think these videos will go faster, but then they do not. All right, let's see here. All right, Tuck says, when do you use what I do is something rather than I want to do something? What I do is something rather than I want to do something. The structure of what I do doesn't pop out. I always say I do something. I don't quite get your question from the way you phrased it, but I think you're talking about the difference between like what I do, like there are different ways of expressing this. For example, when I teach, I like to give many examples. When I teach, I like to give many examples. But if I want to focus on the kind of important part of something, I could say, what I do when I teach, like here is the important thing. What I do when I teach is give lots of examples. All right, so if that's some important thing I'm trying to express about that. Let's see if I got that correct. Or did I skip? Well, I think I skipped some people. But yes, so if you're talking, if that's what you're asking about. Also, it's done versus I'm done. Yeah, you're talking about like the thing itself, or you're talking about me. In this case, it's like it's the same thing for the present perfect example. Like, am I talking about going to China? Like, I went to China. That thing happened. But am I talking about China, like the action of going to China, or am I talking about myself, like I am someone who went to China? So I went to China, that is a thing. I can describe it that way. Or I could say, I have been to China. I'm talking about myself. I'm describing my own experience. So if you're doing a thing and you say, it's done, you're talking about the thing being finished. Or I could describe that same situation as, I'm done with that thing. Or I could just say, I'm done, if people understand the situation. So if my boss comes to me, he has a project he tells me to do, and I say, okay, like I did it already. Like I did it. All right, I'm talking about from my perspective. Or I could just say, it is done. It's already finished. So both of those things are fine. It's just, what is the perspective? It's like the question you asked, I think maybe last week, about like going somewhere versus coming somewhere. It's the same idea. It's just the different perspective. That's why, like, we use the same thing in Japanese. It's like kureru and morao, like that kind of thing. It just depends on like what is the perspective you're taking. Sergey says, hello. Ian says, what do you think about absorb and acquire and immerse? Well, those are all just different ways of saying the same thing. But immersion is like, you kind of think about, like, if I have a cup of water, like here, like, I mean, here's, these mint leaves are immersed in this water. They're just inside of that thing. Just like I am immersed in Japanese culture while I live in Japan. I'm immersed over here. But I'm absorbing something as kind of like this water, or the leaves are absorbing the water. It's like some of that is going into the leaves. So these, you can see these are kind of related to each other. But if you're asking about that as far as language learning goes, it's all kind of the same thing. Like you immerse yourself in the language to absorb it or acquire the language. So answers the fluency course. So you're talking about Fluent for Life. Costs $4.97, right? That's what I saw. Yes, if you're clicking on the link in this video. And again, like the course isn't cheap, but it works and it's guaranteed. So you kind of have to ask yourself, what is it you want? Like, is Fluent, like for me, would fluency help me in Japan? Of course it would, like absolutely. Would I pay that much money to have a program actually teach me Japanese and understand it? Absolutely, for sure. Because it's, when you get fluent, that's a skill you have for the rest of your life. And so like what I do, it's like a little bit different than, like a typical business course. If I say, hey, buy this business thing and it will add $10,000 to your business or whatever. So in that case, it's like, there's a clear, you put in $5 and get back 100. But for you developing a particular skill, like if you could earn way more money with fluency, wouldn't that be worth it? If you had better conversations, wouldn't that be worth it? If you could travel more easily, wouldn't that be worth it? So it's really just, it's up to you. There are lots of ways to learn English and lots of ways to waste time learning English as well. All right. Let's see. Bias says, thanks, Drew. Glad to know natives sometimes change adjective order. It feels good to hear that. Yes, and that's another reason why naturally varied review is important, because it feels good to know that people express things in different ways. When you only listen to one teacher, you will try to make your pronunciation sound exactly like that person. And if it doesn't sound exactly like them, you will feel bad about that. But when you go out and see real natives have a variety of voices and your voice can fit just as well, then you have nothing to worry about. So yes, like I guarantee you, if you like find a group of natives and say, describe that thing. Like some people might just say, oh, look at that small table. Other people might say, look at that small, beautiful table. Or they might say, look at that Japanese table. That's like, it's like small and beautiful or whatever. You know, they might describe that in a number of ways. That's why it's so important to get that variety when you learn. Yan says, how to absorb and acquire and immerse English. Wait, did I read that? Oh, okay, all right. So you're asking two different questions here. Exactly how I've been explaining it in this video. You need to basically make connections between things you already know and the English. That's it. And that's exactly what I explain in the book. So if you'd like to do what you're asking, how to absorb and acquire and immerse, all that, get the book. That's exactly what it explains. So whether you join Fluent for Life or not, if you get the book, it will explain exactly what's going on. So if you're thinking about joining the program, get the book. It will explain the whole thing. And you will see even more why the program is valuable after you read the book. Louis says, I'm new, man, and I like your content straight to the point. Glad to hear it. Yeah, I actually think I take a little bit too much time sometimes to explain. Elder says, sup, Drew? Nice to hear from you again, mate. Nice to see you there. Eunice, it's done. It has done. It is done. It's done. It has done. Well, like, again, try to, this is one of those situations where try not to just look at the language itself. You have to look at how it's being used. But again, like the example I gave before, like it is done, like I'm talking about something is already finished, like this video is almost done. I'm almost done with this video. I'm almost done with my explanation. So if something is done, it's just saying it's finished. But we wouldn't say like it has done. That kind of, maybe I could think of a situation when I might use that, but that's me trying to take the grammar and fit it into different situations rather than beginning with the situation and looking at different ways we might describe that. So always focus on a particular thing like that. So it's done versus it is done are the same thing. You're just moving the words together with a apostrophe. So it's done and it is done. But it has done is like something in the past that I did continues to perform that function. Like it has done, like hopefully this video has done a good job of helping you learn. It has done a good job. Like it started out well, it began helping people and the video is continuing to do that. Like even a video I made years ago, like it has still done a good job of helping people. You know, like it's something that happened in the past and it's continuing to perform that. Like new people come and watch the video and they learn more. All right. So if I want to talk about something like is complete versus it's continuing to operate in some way, again, try not to think about it like this grammar or this word versus that word. It's always connected to a situation. All right. Hans says, do Americans usually make mistakes when they speak? Typically, no. People might not remember a particular word, but they would definitely like not be making the kinds of grammar mistakes that people watching my videos make. So it's not like they would say, I don't know, like I travel Japan, or like depending on the situation. Like if they're like talking about going from America, they would say I travel to Japan rather than I travel Japan, which would mean going around in different places inside Japan. All right. Anne says, I will try to buy it as soon as I can. I know how great you are, and I'm sure it'll be the most valuable English course. I'm glad to hear it. Get the book. I promise you, read the book. It will help you, and it will get you started immediately with what you can improve on, even by yourself. Even before you join the program, you can speak better. Awak says, I would like to thank you for teaching me to spell English and English perfectly. Now been watching since 2014. Oh my goodness, that's a long time. Anybody else who would like help with their spelling, you should get Frederick. Click on the link in the description below this video to get that. But thank you very much. Glad to hear it. And Waka says, your channel has done a good job in helping people learn English. There you go. So it has done a good job. So like it started and it's continuing to do something. Greetings from Escarcega. What's wrong with your voice? Well, what's wrong with my voice is I've been speaking English or speaking at all for an hour and 8 minutes. But now I am done. I am finished. And the video is finished also. All right, Keiko looks like got the last comment here. Thank you very much for your advice, Teacher Drew. It's been a while since I had such a good lesson. I really enjoyed this. See you, Sensei. Bye, all. All right. Again, thank you all for joining. And look at that with that big hand to say bye-bye. Everyone enjoy your day over there. Remember, language fluency really comes from making connections. If you don't understand things well, then you won't be able to use them. And so it doesn't matter, like it's also my fault if I can't make you understand something well. It's not your fault for not understanding it, but that's why I work as hard as I do to make sure people understand things. So yes, Anne as well. If you have any questions, email us at info@englishanyone.com. We can help you more with understanding about the program. But I do, again, recommend anyone out there who's interested in Fluent for Life, get the book, because I really want you to go through this process of understanding why it's important to learn this way, even if you have AI available, even if you have people to speak with, all of that, like the book explains why all these things are really important and why a lot of people have like all of the benefits that we think we need and they still struggle to speak. All right, Eunice, thanks a bunch, Drew. See you. Cheers. All right, have a fantastic day. Click on the links in the description if you would like to learn more about the programs and become a more confident speaker. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.